All right, so for more than 20 years now, One Piece fans have basically been detectives, right? We've been collecting clues, trying to figure out the biggest mystery of all. How is this epic story going to end? Well, today we're going to take all those compelling theories and piece them together to get a real picture of what this final world-shattering war is actually going to look like. Yeah, this quote really cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? The final war. It's not really about treasure. It's about freedom. I mean, think about it. Luffy's entire journey has been about one thing, breaking chains. And now he's face to face with the biggest chain of them all, the world government. For the world to be truly free, that government has got to go down. Okay, so the big question is, where is this all going to go down? Where will the final battlefield be? The whole world's going to feel the tremors, for sure. But all the best theories point to a very specific, super symbolic final stage for this whole thing. So the community is basically split between two key spots, and both are just dripping with symbolism. On one hand, you've got New Marine Force, the Navy's strongest fortress, right? An attack there would be a huge callback, a direct echo of the Paramount War. But on the other hand, you have Mary Geoise, the home of the celestial dragons, the gods, and the secret throne of Immu. It's like, do you attack the sword of the enemy, or do you go straight for the heart? But what if it's not a choice? The theory that's really gaining traction says it's got to be both. Think of it like a massive two-part invasion. Step 1. The Allied forces have to somehow shatter the Navy's defenses at New Marineford. This is like the ultimate gatekeeper level, a brutal, almost impossible first step just to earn the right to get to the real final stage. All right, let's talk about who they're up against. Because we're not just talking about the Navy here. We're talking about the world government's true might, the power of the so-called gods themselves. First on the list, the Holy Knights. And their main gimmick? It's this insane hyper-regeneration. It makes them super reckless, super arrogant, because why wouldn't they be? They can heal from pretty much anything. So how in the world do you beat an enemy that basically can't be killed? Well, the theory goes that you have to completely overwhelm them, maybe with something like overwhelming fire, or a special kind of hockey that could actually cancel out their healing factor. But that brings up a huge question, right? Where does this incredible power even come from? Is it something they have naturally, or is it borrowed? Because the way they talk, it kind of sounds like it's not entirely their own. And that leads to this really chilling theory that this power is being granted to them, maybe from some darker source, or even from Immu themselves. And then, a step above the knights, you've got the Gorosei, the 5 elders. You can basically think of these guys as the penultimate bosses of the entire story. Each one of them can transform into these monstrous demonic forms based on Japanese yokai. And on top of that, they seem to be immortal. I mean, we've seen them in flashbacks from decades ago, and they haven't aged a single day. Okay, and this is where it gets really fun, because these insane powers set the stage for some truly epic dream matchups. The fan community has been going wild with this, carefully predicting who's going to fight who based on themes, abilities, and all that shared history between the characters. So let's look at some of the top predictions. You've got Zoro, the world's greatest swordsman in the making, against the demonic spider Saint Saturn. Makes sense. Then there's Sanji, the guy who walks on air, facing off against the giant earth-burrowing sandworm, Jupiter. And oh man, this one is poetic. Shanks against Garling Figurland, the man who might just be his own father. And it doesn't stop there. Dragon versus Mars, and even Loki, the Prince of Elbaf, who seems like the only one big enough to take on the giant boar Mercury. But here's the thing you gotta remember. All of these incredible fights, every single one, they're all just the opening act. They all serve one single purpose: to clear the path for Monkey D. Luffy to reach the final enemy, the person pulling all the strings from the shadows, Immu. This is it. This is the showdown that the entire story has been building to. So what's the trigger? What actually kicks off this final war? It's not just going to happen out of the blue, right? The leading theory is that this whole thing can't really start until 2 massive discoveries happen first. Discoveries that give Luffy the reason he needs to declare war on the whole world. So here's how it's all predicted to play out. First, the Straw Hats have to find the last Rio poneglyph and finally learn the real history of the Void Century, that 800-year period the world government tried to erase. Then, they reach Laugh Tale and find the One Piece. And that's the key, the knowledge they gain, the truth of what the world has been built on. That becomes the reason for the war. And this is where we see a really fascinating contrast. Remember, when the Pirate King Goldie Roger found the One Piece, he just laughed. Why? Because he was too early. He couldn't do anything with it. But the theory goes that when Luffy gets there, he's going to be right on time. He'll understand the true, heavy purpose of the treasure. And his reaction? It's not going to be laughter. It's going to be a look of pure, steely determination. And that brings us to the biggest question of all. We've spent all this time talking about power levels, who fights who, where the battle happens, but the real mystery, the final secret of One Piece, it's not what Imu can do, it's why. What is their endgame? What could possibly be their motivation? So, I want to leave you with this one final, kind of chilling thought. What if Aimu isn't just your standard mustache-twirling villain? What if all of it, the tyranny, erasing history, the absolute control, what if it all comes from some twisted, maybe even Thanos-like belief that they are the hero, that they're saving the world from something far worse? Now that is the kind of moral bombshell that would make for an unforgettable final war.